Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum coming to you from KSCO. And it's a great day to be here, great day to be alive. And I just wanted to let you know that I have some really great guests on here today. And let me just make sure I'm being recorded. Hold on a sec.
It's recording.
Oh, it is? Okay, great. And so anyway, I'm so excited to be here today. I have some great guests. And basically, we are coming to a point in the United States that we have some great opportunity to celebrate. And one of those things is it's the 250th anniversary of the Army. And so I thought it would be a great time to have um, this group that I just found out about called the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And I have the national commander here, and I'm very excited to have him. His name is Robert Olivares. Is that how you say your last name?
Olivares, close enough.
Olivares. Okay. It's interesting. I have a supplement that I use in my practice called Olivirex.
Oh,
So
there you
I
go.
told my staff I want to make sure I don't get those confused. But it's interesting because it's a really cool vitamin that helps people become healthier.
Hmm.
So you being part of the national, of the military order is really great. And then I also have Brett Miller here, who's a national chairman of the Veterans Freedom Corps. And you guys have come together recently and been able to help veterans with something really pretty cool. And I thought this is something that everybody needs. And so it's something called the Way to Happiness. And first of all, I guess, Brett, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? And then, Robert, you can tell us how it's helping the veterans out there and what you see the changes are.
Sure. Thank you, Duncan. So, the way to happiness is a non-religious, common sense moral code. It's been around about 40 years. It's been distributed over 140 million times across the world. It's been translated into 119 languages. Um, it is, for us, the most successful tool we found to help prevent suicide. There's a lot of effort that's been made to check on your buddy. Buddy checks. Legion has a program called Be the One. The idea is to check in with your fellow mates. Um, but oftentimes, after you do that, the question is, what next? And we have found that the Way to Happiness book and course is a great next step. Once you engage with somebody who's struggling, uh, there's 21 precepts, simple principles for living that allow you to kind of inspect your own life in your own space and time. We use this as a mentoring tool where we have a veteran do one chapter a day and then report back in. And being in the military, we all like orders, believe it or not. We like to follow them.
That's
And
awesome.
the discipline of putting that reporting in is a big deal. So that's an overview of what the Way to Happiness is and how we use it. I think Robert and his organization have some views on this. They've passed a resolution recently, and Robert, I'll let you talk about that.
Yeah, so we use it in two aspects of the organization. I added it with a proclamation as a tool, obviously for suicide prevention, because we have a big hand in that with a lot of Purple Heart recipients and veterans surviving from survivor's guilt, and fighting the demons of the war that they've all had to deal with. So it's actually helped a few of the veterans that we've given it out to. And not only Purple Heart recipients, but regular veterans. I was in Utah with Joey Ganton, and he gave out to the book to a few Legionnaire members. And within an hour, we had one guy come back, ask for more books, and he passed someone who was in a dark spot, and to see how it turned them around was a plus, and it was a tool that we could use to help veterans, and not just veterans. Honestly, you can help out anybody in the U.S., any creed, color, or religious belief. Like it was mentioned, it's a non religious book. It does promote spirituality, which does cross over into every single religion, which is great. So it's not based off of just one religion. It's everyone, and they can all use it as a tool to help them promote themselves and bring themselves back up to a healthier mentality, which I call the light instead of the dark, because where the dark is you're depressed and you're going through all those problems. But we also use it in the Americanism aspect where it promotes uh, goodwill and good health and all that other stuff and good spirits and trying to be a positive note for the younger generations when, going through life and how to basically talk to their elders and be more respectful.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's like we all think about the soldiers going to war, and that at that point you are out there in the moment. And I haven't done that myself, but I know how what I hear is how much on edge you are, how much in the moment you are, and it's of course can be a life and death situation. And then you come home and you don't have that often, which is in one hand good, but in the other hand, you kind of lost your purpose. And from what I see, there's such a suicide rate amongst the soldiers. And so it seems like there needs to be something, some kind of guide to help them actually start to find purpose and reasons to move forward in other areas. And it sounds like this is helping that.
Yes. The suicide rate right now is about 34.7 veterans a day, which is a lot higher. And it's just not Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. This goes all the way down to Vietnam, Korea. They just don't talk about it as much. It's because it's the older generation and they don't expect the older generation to do it. But there's a lot across the board. It's just not one generation of veteran. So this book, it promotes positively. It reroutes the wires in your brain to think in a different way to help you realize that there's more than just you and there's people out there who care about you and who are willing to stand up and be there for you and to ensure that you leave a better, happier, healthier life. So this book is, it's been a godsend and it's something that needs to be promoted out there. And to help out, veterans, every people from every walk of life to see that there's more than just them and that they are all cared for and want to be loved and taken care of.
Yeah, I think the women's suicide rate is higher than the men's, right? The female soldiers, is that correct?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I just know that the numbers that I get is everybody. I don't do the segregation of,
Hmm.
women, female, male, black, white, Hispanic. It's a loss of a life is a loss of a life. It doesn't matter if you're male, female, Catholic, Christian, Jewish, doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It's a loss of a life. So if we can prevent that loss, that's a plus.
Duncan, another aspect of this with female veterans, and it's another topic that isn't often spoken of in mixed company, but it's the subject of military sexual trauma. And I just got back from a state VFW convention, Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I talked to four women, and all four of them were victims of military sexual trauma, all four veterans. And at the front of the Way to Happiness book, and those of us in the military understand the idea of being part of a team and surviving as part of a team. But in the front of this book, it says why I gave you this book. And it says your survival is important to me. And from those of us that served in the military, and we come from this team background, that makes total sense to us. But all four women started tearing up when I said this to them, when I gave them this book. Just to, I guess, put a period on what Robert just said, but there's other aspects of this that we don't often talk about, and that's one of them.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I'm just going to mention to the listeners again, this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Wellness Radio. Oops, got a timer going off here. And I'm here today with two amazing guys. One is the National Commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. That's Robert Oliveira. And Brett Miller, who's the National Chairman of the Veterans Freedom Corps. And we're here talking about veterans, really the subject of the health of the veterans and what happens with them and why the suicide rate is so high. And recently, you guys have found a tool that actually is helping. And I'm sure, Robert, it's helped you. Brett, it's helped you. I know the material, it's pretty amazing. So we're just going over some of the concepts and how this is becoming used nationally now. Is that correct?
Yes.
So how many people would you say this is getting to? How many veterans are able to utilize this?
So we just started the program. Not a whole lot of veterans was in our organization. I know Washington, Oregon, California, and Arizona have a lot of it right now. And then we'll be pushing it at the national convention in July to where every department, and when I say department, is state for us, will have copies and access to all this. We just literally signed a proclamation with the Way to Happiness a few months ago. So it's a fairly new program, but we have seen some success in the couple of months that we've had it with a few people who've been pushing it out there and letting people know that we're here to help them and the books that we've given out.
No, great. So there's an actual course you take, and there's some precepts or different parts of it. Brett, do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So, first backing up a little bit, here's one example of a program we started here at a Legion post in Clearwater called Operation Warrior Hope. And one of the beautiful things about the Way to Happiness Foundation is that they will print these books up with your own custom cover on it for your organization. Like the Military Order of the Purple Heart has their own design. They've got one of the most beautiful medals that exists, so it's a great design. Um, but when we use this as a tool, we require that the veterans that we mentor one-on-one do at least one chapter a day and then report in. Because the idea is that you watch the video concept. And we didn't mention that, but there are video concepts that illustrate each one of these precepts. They're about 3 or 4 minutes long, but you really get the idea of what these precepts are about. So you watch the video, you read the chapter. The chapters are very short. And then there are 4 or 5 questions typically at the end of each chapter that get you to think about how does this precept actually apply to my life? Um, a real simple one, for example, that we run into with combat veterans, uh, you would think at first blush this is not a big deal, but do not murder. But in that chapter, for those that served in combat, there's a distinction between murder and killing. And I think, Robert, you would agree with me that at some point we have to come to terms with what our job was
Yeah,
in very unpleasant situations, right?
you're exactly right on that. I've had this conversation with multiple veterans that were sort of kind of upset, and I sat down. I was like, "Listen, there's a difference between what we did and murder. A murder is an actual planned out objective, and when I say planned out, is like the person knows they want to do it, and it could be any person. And then maybe they have a targeted person or somebody at random. That's a murder. When in the military and you're at war, you don't know who the enemy is because it's not like it used to be where everybody was in the same uniform. Now, when you're killing somebody in a fight, it's life or death. So it's two different things. A murderer is here going to come at you. It's something that they have planned. It'll be either a random person or someone that they selected. Us in the military, we don't know who the enemy is. We don't know who belongs to so and so army. We don't know who belongs to, their little militia. So it's more of a killing to protect yourself and ensure that you survive through that little skirmish. So two totally different things. And telling them this put them more at ease and more understanding. But it's also if this was such a problem, and I taught them, it's also in the Ten Commandments. I was like, why didn't you have a problem with that? It's thou shalt not kill. If you can oversee it with that, then it shouldn't be a problem with it in the book. So, but I would like to show you my designs for the Purple Heart because I have
Yeah.
all of them, and we have three different options with us. Oops,
Oops, there you go.
oh, here we go. I'll do one by one. So we have the American flag, the
Uh-huh.
Purple Heart, a basic white background with the Purple Heart,
Wow.
and then the Purple Heart national emblem on purple with the Purple Heart medal on the back.
That's
So
awesome. Well, first of all, I want to thank both of you guys for your service. I mean, I know you hear that probably and people say it, but we really mean it. And especially just understanding what you guys have done in order to help us have the freedoms we have. It just doesn't, you can't state it enough. So I really want to say that sincerely. I appreciate it. Hearing you guys talk about that. Who what American walking around hears this subject much? We just think of our freedoms and we take them for granted. And that's another reason that I'm really wanting to have you guys on and talk to us about, your lives. You've done so much for us and what's going on with you at this point. And it's just so great to know that at least there's some tools that can try to help with this after war veteran condition that is really affecting you guys dramatically. And we never know who is a veteran and who isn't. A lot of people just silently go about their lives and they're in desperation. Other people are pretty vocal about it, and some people have a hard time moving forward, and others are able to succeed. So, the whole purpose, it sounds like, of your guys' organization is not only to respect and appreciate the veterans, but help those in need and give them tools so that they're not just left to wander on their own. So this book, The Way to Happiness, and the precepts that are in it, seems like it's actually giving somebody a roadmap or something that they can do to step by step improve different areas of their life. What's another one of the ones is there any one particular, Robert, that you really focus on? Because I know these, what are there, 20 and
Yeah.
different times,
So
different
yeah, hold on. Let me because there was that do not murder, and the one that was like a big thing was be trustworthy for us. And so a lot of people were discouraged, and what I said is like, if you're gonna say something, do something. Don't just drop the ball and not be consistent. And so when they mean trustworthy, it has nothing to be with like, is this a good guy, will he do this? It is someone that you can rely on, and whatever happens, they'll be there for you. So they're like, well, why are you going to judge my character? It's like, it has nothing to do with your character. It's just someone who's reliable. It's what they want. And so, um,
Wow. Well, that's a great quality for anybody.
yeah,
We all need to work more on that. So, what do you, so, we have listeners that kind of come in and out. So I kind of want to continue to tell them who we are. This is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Wellness Radio. And I have Robert Olivares here with the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and also Brett Miller, who's the National Chair of the Veterans Freedom Corps. And, just to skip back to the beginning a little bit, it's like when I found out about this, I looked into the organization and realized that this goes all the way back to George Washington, really, in its inception, the Badge of Merit. And what he did, and I know you guys know this, but when he had his soldiers at Valley Forge, they had no food, they had no shoes, they had no clothes, they were in 3 feet of snow, and the enemy or the British were in their barracks doing relatively well. And as it was, from what I understand from reading through this, that of course there was money allocated for the troops, but the Congress seemed to abscond with it to a degree, which made the troops suffer more and more and more. So George Washington, and it's about the first guy in history, wanted to give credit to the foot soldier or the non-commissioned officers, because in the history, it's been, the commissioned officers would always be praised for the wins or chastised for the losses, I guess. But that's where this merit came out, and the Purple Heart came out of that time. And so, how long has the Military Order of the Purple Heart been around? That came in the 30s or something, right?
yeah, since 1931, 32-ish is
Uh-huh.
so our 100-year anniversary is in 2032 or 33, I believe. So that'll be an exciting one. And we're actually hosting our 100th anniversary in the birthplace of the Purple Heart and George Washington headquarters in New York. So that'll be an awesome event to be at. Luckily, I'm only 44, so I'll be around then. So I'm excited.
That's awesome.
But
Yeah. And so it sounds like this came about after World War I, obviously, because it was before World War II that they took it and turned it into the Merit of Honor.
yeah, so it was a military badge of merit, which was like a good cookie. They wanted something for basically like a good job, pat on the back for soldiers. They wanted to appreciate them and show them that the military did appreciate all they did and how they stood there for them. So the Badge of Military Merit was, which is still the oldest medal, which then transformed into Purple Heart for wounds received during battle with the enemy.
That's pretty amazing. So, now, Brett, you served in the military as well, right? What did you were in? What armed forces were you in?
So I was an Army officer. I flew scout helicopters for a few years and have been involved in veteran advocacy work for the last 20.
Wow,
Uh,
that's
Management consultant by day, but
uh-huh.
my passion is veteran advocacy.
That's amazing. So we're talking about for those of you that just got on about this tool called The Way to Happiness, which is a magazine, I guess, or a booklet that has 20 different exercises that somebody can do on a daily basis to help bring them up or give them purpose or renew their purpose so that they can actually move forward on a daily basis. And that's called the Way to Happiness. And there is a website that they can go to because now, before I get to that, anybody in the military has the ability to get involved with this, the Way to Happiness organization, right? Whether they're part of the Purple Heart or not, they can still reach out because I imagine there's a lot of people listening that have been in the military and are maybe not connected to any group. So, first of all, what do you recommend to them if they feel like they need some help? And how would they get a hold of the Way to Happiness as another option?
I would first of all recommend reaching out to the men and women they served with because they understand what they're going through better than anybody. And I always tell people nobody's going to take care of a veteran better than a veteran. I don't care who you are. That's just the way it is because we all were in the suck. We all went to boot camp. We all went to training together. So we all know what we went through. Then second, I would say join an organization. You know, if you're a Purple Heart recipient, join the military of the Purple Heart. If you're a combat veteran, you got the VFW. You know, they got the Marine Corps League out there, the American Legion, the DAV, Wounded Warrior in Action, Iraq Afghan Veteran Association. All those things are there to help veterans to help them navigate the bad times in life and give them tools to help be more successful. They're also there to be there for them when they need a shoulder to cry on or someone to vent to. Um, you know, join an organization. More than likely, hopefully, we can get the other organizations on board and with the Way to Happiness, and then they'll have access to it. If not, you know, just look it up online, and I'm pretty sure that you can find a copy somewhere. Like I was telling Joy Ganton when I was in DC this past month for Memorial Day. I was in a grocery store and walked out. I didn't notice it because I was paying attention to something else. But one of my buddies is like, "Hey, listen to this our book," and it was A Way to Happiness, but in Spanish. I was like, "No way!" And that was all the way in Alexandria, Virginia, there on the other side, the other side of the world, the states. So it's out there. You know, you just gotta look for it. But I'm sure that there's people who will give you access to it or give you a book to give you that lift that you're needing at that time.
So, Brett, maybe you know, is this available in different languages or?
Actually, yes, this book has been translated into 119 different languages. I'm not sure there are 120 on the planet,
Wow.
but most any language you want, the book is available. So the book is printed in Glendale, California, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, at the Way to Happiness Foundation. And the books are very affordable. They're about $2 a piece. You can order as few as 12 at a time, a bundle of 12. Nobody makes any money on these books. It's a nonprofit organization that prints and distributes these books. And the idea is to just get the books out and get them in use. One aspect of this we haven't talked about, I can share with you from a combat veteran who I mentored through the course. And his little success story happened to be laying here in front of me. And I'll just read one sentence to you real quickly to illustrate this point. He said, I found myself calmer in my environment and not wanting to spend time with people living their lives stimulated by nonstop drama and not following the precepts of this book. And I think Robert will agree with me. So often we get running with the wrong crowd, if you will. and we kind of get lost in that crowd. And for this veteran, and I've personally seen this with others, this doing this course and reading this book and applying the precepts to your life reminds you of what a survival path is. And it kind of pops you out of it, and you just automatically disconnect from people who don't have your best interests at heart. And that's not a particular precept, but that is an outcome that comes from following these precepts. Have you seen that, Robert?
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess they say like you will be in 3 to 5 years, like the people you hang out and the books you read, right? So
Yeah.
hang out with better people and, read books on successful people aligned with what you're looking to do. So, any other precepts that stick out to you? Because if the people out here are listening and they want to get involved with this, there's a website, right? Thewaytohappiness.com or org. What you say?
.org. It's thewaytohappiness.org. Um, you can also take the first letters of each of those words, twth.org, and it will get you to the same website. There you can watch the videos. This entire book has been made into a movie, um, that an audio book, if you will, that you can listen to that illustrates these concepts. And you can also find the course at that website, thewaytohappiness.org or twth.org.
Wow. So what do you think about, just the average person out there who might be struggling with life or, a job career? They're trying to change things. They might not have problems with relationships with their families or various other reasons, other things going on. This is a book that could help them as well, right?
Yeah, so it's mainly to make sure that you stay positive because in the world there's so much negativity in the world right now. You can turn on a TV and it's negative this, negative that. It's very rare that you hear of a positive outcome going on anywhere. Best way is like one of my mentors was a Vietnam veteran was like you can do a million good things, and one bad thing. That one bad thing is going to overshadow the million good things that are going on in the world. So with this book, like I said, it's supposed to rewire the brain and help you think positively and help you move forward each day and day. With all the negative out there, this is going to help shield you and keep you on the right path, thinking in the positive way and ensuring that you don't feel that the negativity of the world is going to bring you down, hold you back, and not make you successful. So if you read this book and you follow it like you follow your any Bibles that are out there, you're gonna be very successful.
That's amazing. And again, so how did you guys get involved with anybody that just got on the air recently, Robert? How did you guys find the way to happiness? How was it implemented? And now it's kind of taken off across the country with you guys.
So it's funny. Funny thing. When we got involved with Joey, and he was part of the Army Ranger Association, I was a person. I think outside the box, and a lot of us veterans are inside that box because we like structure and we are so path oriented that we don't realize there's stuff on the other side of the walls. So being on both sides of the table, being a veteran, being a combat veteran, being a civilian, I was like, there's got to be more. So my sole purpose was legislatively to connect with every veteran service organization out there because united we're stronger, divided we're weak. So I reached out to the U.S. Army Ranger Association, Special Forces Association, VFW, Vietnam Veterans of America, any organization you name it, I've reached out to and talked to them and tried a partnership. And legislatively, Congress and senators see the numbers, and once they see all the numbers together, that's something you don't want to mess with. So I was here basically trying to better the lives and benefits of veterans and ensure that they are taken care of because we signed a contract to protect the United States with up into our life and ensure that the safety of the people within this country are taken care of. Well, since we honored our contract and we're home, some of us did suffer, some of us are injured, but since we honored ours, it's time for the government to honor their contract and saying they're going to take care of us with good benefits, good health insurance, and ensure that us and our families lead happy lives after we've done our time. Well, in doing so, talking about the programs, which the Purple Heart has a lot of programs like every other organization, we started talking about suicide prevention, Americanism, and all sorts of stuff. And then the Way to Happiness was presented to me, and we talked about it and how it was a good tool to prevent suicide prevention and help you know promote Americanism, which is goodwill, and prosperity with everybody. Good prosperity with everybody. So reading it, talking it over with the team, myself and my national adjutant had several meetings, and we're like, this is a route we want to go. This is something we're interested in that's going to help our veteran community and ensure that they are very well taken care of. So we jumped on board, started reading it, promoting. I gave it out before I implemented it as a proclamation as a tool. Once I saw the effects after a few things, I was like, let's write it up, and we made it a proclamation and added it to our programs.
That is so amazing. So we're talking with Robert Olivares, the national commander of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. And what a cool thing. I mean, it's so awesome that you found this, and it seems like it would be a little difficult to move anything through any kind of organization like this. So you actually got it to enough key people that saw the benefit in it and
Well,
decided we got to do this.
so see, there's two different things, and this is where people are unaware. So there's what we have a tool belt, right? You can always add to your tool belt to make your job easier, better, right? But then there's programs that you want to add. So I am not adding this as a program. I am adding it to the tool belt that we already have within programs. So I can make a directive move and say, this is going to be helpful to both the suicide prevention program and the Americanism program because it fosters, goodwill, good health, and it helps rewire the way people are thinking when they're depressed. Now, there's other organizations that they're seeing it as a tool in a program. So they're bringing it in as a whole new program, which is a longer drawn out process. But since it's an added to, I can automatically implement it. So there's two different things. So that's why with us, it was added and used so fast because it was something that we just incorporated to an existing program, and it wasn't something new as an added program to our organization.
That's amazing. It's like triage, you got things happening right now and people's lives are in danger right now, and you find a tool, you want to use that immediately. So that's very, very cool that you did it that way. So, go ahead,
Listen,
Brett.
Duncan, I also want to acknowledge Robert because I work with a lot of different veteran organizations, and this man is an exception to the rule. He is dedicated to improving the lives of veterans. He thinks outside the box. He is committed to improving veteran outcomes, period. It's not about process or procedure or internal administration. Those things exist, of course, but I just want to acknowledge you, Robert, for the work that you're doing and the efforts to collaborate with other veteran organizations. That is unusual. It is very unusual, and I want to acknowledge you for that work if nobody else has.
And you're right. It actually, there's 120 veteran organizations in the United States. And out of the 120, only three require you to have a prestigious medal to be in it. And a lot of people don't know that. It's the Medal of Honor Society, the Legion of Merit, and the Purple Heart. You have to have one of those three things to be in those three organizations. All the other ones, you just have to be in a conflict area or in the military, and you can join all of them, which is great. But we all have our hands in the same pot. And I was here thinking when I was younger, well, I'm only 44. I can't really say younger to a whole lot of people. So,
Especially not
but
us.
yeah. So, I started it at the local level here in Washington State. I belong to Chapter 12, the Pacific Northwest Chapter 12, Seattle. And I have a bunch of friends that are VFW members and VFW Post 7511 out of Monroe, Washington. So I was like, hey, let's help each other out. We have members here that do this, you have members here that do that. We're all doing the same thing. Let's fill those gaps. Let's help the people of the community. And so it worked at the local level. I was like, okay, so it's working here. Is this a fluke? So then I brought it up to the state level. And then, it literally between the veteran organizations working together, literally started between the Purple Heart and the VFW. So it started working at the state level. when I became the national junior vice back in 2022, I talked to uh, now past National Commander Ferguson out of Arkansas. I was like, hey, let's start working with the VFW nationally and make this bigger. But I was thinking differently. I just wasn't telling them what I was thinking. We joined a partnership. Now, we're each doing a variety of programs from suicide prevention, homelessness, veteran welfare, legislative, women's advocacy, veterans advocacy, youth services, mentorship, stuff like that. It's like, well, we can fill the gaps where we don't have veterans and help each other out. That was great. So from there, we went to the Vietnam Veterans of America. So now we have a partnership with the Vietnam Veterans of America. After that, I met up with the Ranger Association, Special Forces Association, Marine Corps League, trying to work something out with both the American Legion and DAV, Disabled American Veterans, and the Paralyzed American Veterans. So I know the Blind American Veteran Association wants to work with us, but let's help each other out. And so I figured if I can help them out, we can share stories, what works for who, fill the gaps for each place, and make sure that all veterans are taken care of. And not only that, but the civilian populace in that area who are also needing help because they are the backbone of our veterans. We can't forget about the civilians because our wives, mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, and kids who did not serve do play a big role in veteran community in ensuring that we are taken care of as veterans and reminded of things and people that are there for us as well.
I'm really glad you brought that up because, sometimes you just think about the veteran, but realize the breadth of everybody that you touch. And,
Yeah.
if a lot of people would look to veterans as opinion leaders because they went out there and, they gave their all for, our country. And so, it's really great to have figure people like you doing this and now reaching out into the community with some of your successful actions really makes a lot of sense. So this is something that, do you think the veterans that are using this are sharing it with family members and with
Yes.
kids and stuff like that?
Yeah, so going back to the Utah deal was we had a Legionnaire there. I can't remember his name. I only met him briefly. Had a few of the Way to Happiness books. Went out into town, stopped by the store, and saw a lady who was in distress. She was upset and started talking about a little vague. I don't know if it was her son or her nephew that was going to prison, and he was on the I'm going to commit suicide because I don't want to be locked up. Well, he gave her the book, and she started talking about it with her family member there, and all of a sudden they're like, "Can I take this into jail with me? Because now I'm thinking differently." And that was within a span of an hour, hour and a half. So that was a veteran reaching out to a civilian and changing their life. And like for us, like I am a strong supporter of our auxiliary, and our auxiliary is a support arm of the military or the Purple Heart. And those are all of our spouses and family members that ensure that we're taken care of. Without them, a lot of our members would forget to go to appointments, to go to meetings, or where they were supposed to be, or which shoe to put on the left foot. So, I support everybody who supports us as well, and I want to make sure that they're taken care of and respected and honored as well, because their job is just as hard as ours was while we were overseas. Because now they're taking care of a person who has TBI or PTSD or is just stuck in that time that they had the worst experience of their life.
Yeah, wow. And Brett, you were talking about, or one of you two were talking about how you use this. You would take a precept a day or a teaching a day, and you just keep repeating them over and over and over again, or do you find one that really relates to you and go, I need to read this one every day so that it sets me up for success or helps me with the troubles that I'm having? How do you use this on a daily basis?
So, in my experience, when somebody goes through the course or they read the book, they find a chapter or two that speaks to them personally. One example of that is a clinical psychologist who's an Army veteran. He answers the suicide prevention hotline right now for the VA. And 6 years ago, after his second unsuccessful, thankfully, suicide attempt, his mentor gave him a copy of The Way to Happiness. Chapter 6 set a good example, spoke to him. And from his perspective, Well, I'll just read you what he wrote. He says, I realized that my experiences, my struggles, and even my lowest points weren't just burdens. They were tools. Tools I could use to rebuild myself and help others do the same. That chapter helped me understand that by changing myself, I could help change the world around me. Now, that's just one man's example of a chapter that spoke to him. But in my experience in using this book and in talking with other veterans, everyone will find a chapter that speaks to them in a similar fashion on an area that is important to them.
I think one of the ones is be temperate, right? And that's something that is important because, especially when you're unhappy or you have trouble, it's easy for you to indulge in things that may just get you deeper down in the hole. So that's one that makes sense to just live a clean hands and, a clean life. And so that's one of the ones that when I was looking through it that made sense to me because I have a tendency to go all in. And sometimes it's a bad habit, but so that's another one of the basic precepts, I believe, right?
Robert, have you
Yes.
seen one that stood out?
Yeah, so my favorite one, I gotta remember, I don't remember the number, but so 18. So it was respect the religious beliefs of others.
Ah, that's
So that right there hits a big note for me because, not everybody's familiar with everybody's religious belief, and this goes back to negativity. If you're unaware or you're scared of something new, the first thing you're going to be is negative towards it without having a full understanding. And I get that daily with because of the creator of the or the author of the book. And I'll be the first, like I didn't know a whole lot about him. Didn't care to when I was first told. I'm like, whatever, I don't care because I don't promote drama. I don't promote negativity. It's just not my thing. But then after listening to it and reading the book, I'm like, it's just people who are unaware or not knowledgeable of a newer religion or a belief, and the first thing you're going to do is be negative towards it. I'm like, so because of Islam and everything else, are you going to be negative towards them and every Arab person that you see? And they're like, no. It's like, well, why do that to another person of a religion? So you got to respect all the religions. I've been in the war against terrorism, and I fought a lot of different cultures and people with different beliefs and alongside them. So I just, I'm very respectful of your beliefs, but I'm also the same guy that says there's only one God. He just showed up to you in the form of your, preference. And so that's just me. And so, but yeah, no, you gotta be respectful of a person and their beliefs and just be happy that they believe in something. It's better to believe in something than nothing.
well, if we take that one precept and put it out in the world, there would be no wars. I
Yeah.
mean, most of all the wars have to do with some kind of religious disbelief or other things, but
And, well, all the start of the wars were exactly like that. Now it's mainly money and who controls what. But
yeah.
yeah, that's 100% true. And people seem to forget history, and and I think it's really sad. And I blame uh, the internet and social media for the downfall of humanity. To be honest with you, and you can basically Google anything and anything on the internet is supposed to be true according to a lot of these kids nowadays.
Yeah. Brett, if you want to bring up another precept, please do.
Well, there's kind of a part two to this book that is not always well understood. But in precept number 20, try to treat others as you would want them to treat you. There is a list of 20 human virtues. Virtues are defined as the ideal qualities of human behavior or character. And what I have seen with this book is that once a veteran completes the course and they've kind of sorted out who they should hang out with, who they shouldn't, how these precepts apply to their own lives, they then struggle with how can they be in control over the environment around them. And the answer is these 20 virtues. If you, for example, practice one virtue a day for 20 days, okay, let me give you a few examples: justness, loyalty, fairness, consideration, compassion, self-control and tolerance, forgiveness, uh, politeness, admiration, integrity. People begin to reciprocate those same qualities back to you. And I have seen that not just a veteran, but anyone that applies these virtues on a daily basis can begin to change the behavior of the people that they hang out with. One case in point, there's a veteran I mentored through the course. He's a realtor. And he says, I closed a deal today and I could have made more money, but today I was practicing integrity
Hmm.
and I did what was right for my client. And I know it'll come back to me. I know they'll refer people to me, but I don't know if I would have done that if I wasn't practicing integrity today, just as a real life example of how those are applied.
Wow, that's amazing. Life is all, there's so many things that happen to us at every second of the day, and it's so easy I wouldn't say human nature necessarily, but it's easy for us to get swayed one way or another before we have common sense about maybe that wasn't the best idea. And if you look at, you mentioned social media, Robert, and a lot of times you see the younger generations and some of the stuff that they're doing, and you just wonder who raised them. It just seems like this is missing in a generation. These ideas of temperance and treating other people the way you would yourself would want to be treated. And you know this is something that it seems like if we could get this out to more and more people, it would be awesome. I mean, working with the soldiers and the Purple Heart people and the veterans is amazing. And I'm really glad to hear that you call the auxiliary. I never really knew what the auxiliary was. That means the family of veterans or soldiers.
Yeah, so every organization has an auxiliary, and basically the auxiliary, well, let me, so there's either a membership tier and an auxiliary, or some organizations have a membership tier, an associate membership tier, which is like, your kids, your wives, and then auxiliary. So we, as a Purple Heart, we have all three. So we have our patriots, which is our members. We have our associates members, which is like my kids. My kids are associate members. And then we have the auxiliary, which is our spouses, all our children as well, family members, our auxiliary members. They are the backbone of any organization. It doesn't matter how many veterans you have in that backbone, that organization. The auxiliary is there to fill the gaps, to help you out, to make sure that you're taken care of, to ensure that you're at your meetings, to ensure you're at your place that you're supposed to be for a awareness campaign, fundraising event, promotion of the organization or a parade. So yeah, the auxiliary is an important function of any organization, and people need to realize that the auxiliary is out there, and they are always looking for new membership to help take care of the veterans. And it's also there for the spouses of any veteran who served. So
Do you find that your veterans that are utilizing this are sharing it with the family?
yes, yeah, yeah. So we handed it out to the Department of California. There was some kickback due to the fact of the author, and it's California is like one of the biggest places of where this book is developed. But we actually had a guy, and it was crazy. I was in the middle of the room of talking about this, and I had a patriot read it within under 5 minutes, and he actually backed me up, saying how this promotes spirituality. It talks about maybe a reference to two religions in the entire book. I'm like, yeah, you're correct, but it doesn't talk about Catholicism, Christianity, being Jewish, being a Muslim, Scientologist. It doesn't talk about anything, just the spirituality. Is like, if your problem is with this one guy, then you're the problem, because this is a book to help take care of veterans, and that's what we're here for. But if your problem is with a single individual, then what are you here doing? Because now if you have a problem with him and then you have a problem with me and I need help, are you going to have an issue with me because I supported a book that actually helped, um, you know, veterans and prevented suicide prevention and endorsed goodwill, and they had nothing to stand on, and so, but
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's amazing because there just happens, there's so many amazing pieces of the literature out there that can help people. And if you have a tool that is going to do what it's been doing for you guys, and I guess the author is L. Ron Hubbard, right?
Correct.
And he's written, I don't know, one of the most prolific writers out there. But by using this tool, which is a non-religious portion, it's helping save the lives of untold amount of veterans for sure, just in this let alone reaching it out into other areas of the community or the country or the world. 129 languages, you said, or 139 languages, Brett?
119 languages, but yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and the one thing we want to do is ensure that we don't have any more veterans and veteran lives lost due to
Yeah.
suicide. So if it saves one veteran,
Yep.
that is better than anything. And a tool to do that is very helpful. And I do want to mention that L. Ron Hubbard is a veteran himself who served in the Marine Corps and the Navy and the National Guard, I believe, and a two-time Purple Heart recipient. So,
Wow.
you
That's
know,
amazing.
one of our guys.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny. We at the beginning, I'm just going to introduce everybody again. We're getting close to the end of our show here, but we have Robert Olivares. I'm saying it like the vitamin Olivira. I knew I'd say it wrong because I
Just
all
remember that Z at the end, Olivares.
there we go. And he's the national commander of the Military Order of Purple Hearts. And I've learned a lot about that today. And then also Brett Miller, the national chairman of the Veterans Freedom Corps. And you haven't told us much about that, Brett. So what is that?
The Freedom Corps works with other organizations. Our basic purpose is to train mentors to work with veterans, to help identify needs in the community, and then to help mobilize other veteran organizations and non-veteran organizations to help meet those needs. But our core mission is to train mentors to use tools like the Way to Happiness to assist other organizations. And there are other counseling tools and other humanitarian tools that we use, but that's the primary mission of the Freedom Corps. The idea being, and the reason we harp on this idea of one chapter a day is because we want you to repeat this process with other people that you care about. I recently worked with the mother of a Marine who had committed suicide. She has her own nonprofit organization. And I wanted to walk her through this course and through this booklet so that she could then repeat her own experience to help others. If we all do that, we very rapidly, perhaps even exponentially, begin to reach the veteran community, the caregivers community. We don't talk enough about caregivers for veterans. And we can begin to change the suicide number to make it much lower. But more importantly, we can begin to calm the environment in such a way. You know, suicide is kind of an outcome of last resort, but it's just as important to live a better life, to live a calmer life, to live a more successful life. You know, the last precept it's just an amazing one. It's flourish and prosper is the last precept in this book. And of course, the military version of that is we accomplish the mission, regardless of what it takes to accomplish the mission. But in life, that mission is to flourish and prosper, regardless of the barriers put in front of you. And so the mission of the Freedom Corps is to help people flourish and prosper through mentoring and other tools. Our motto in Latin is semper efficax. Funny word to say, but translated, it means always effective. That is our motto.
Hmm.
And much of what we do is working with other organizations like Robert's, uh, uh, all with the purpose of improving outcomes for veterans.
You know, I love what you,
I love
I'm echoing for some reason. Anyway, flourish and prosper. I love that because, you know, if we can help people have that as a concept to flourish and prosper, how great would that be? You know, because people wake up every day and they have whatever is available to them right there. All of the worries of the day before, the past, it's just sitting right in your face. And if you are wake up and you are trying to deal with all that stuff as your number one goal, rather than wake up and go, what am I going to do today? I have this thought. I'm going to flourish and prosper today. It might be incremental steps, but if you know that that's your trajectory, it's a lot better than having all that other stuff own you and just keep pulling you down. So I love that. What that's one of the precepts.
Yes.
Cool. All right. So yeah, and we're about to finish here, but I just, I was thinking as we're talking about this is all the way back to George Washington and how many wars there have been in the United States up till this point. I know that my dad served in the Navy in World War II, and a lot of that greatest generation didn't seem to talk about stuff at all. They withheld so much of whatever happened in World War II. They just never talked about it. So they just suffered in quiet desperation, I guess. There wasn't anything like this now. I mean, that there is now. So how great of a tool we have. So this is we're talking about the Way to Happiness organization, thewaytohappiness.org, which Robert Olivares has been introduced to the Military Order of the Purple Heart and other organizations too. And it's helping the veterans that some of them are in pretty bad shape mentally and or physically, but it's giving them a purpose. It's giving them something to look forward, steps that they can do every day to actually have a brighter future. So I really commend you for, looking and thinking outside of the box, like you said, and being able to find something that works and bring it to the people. So thank you very much for doing that. So we just got a couple minutes. Robert, why don't you just give any kind of thing you'd like to say, and then Brett, and then we'll leave it off at that.
Yeah, so we're always looking for support of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. We have a support page called the MOPH Fund. You can find it at MOPH Fund, and we have a new program called the Badge of Military Merit Society. There's different tiers where you can donate to help support not only veterans, but the programs that we have out there for veterans. And I do want to note that even though we share the same as every other veteran organization, the only thing that makes us unique besides being combat wounded veterans is we are the only organization that offers a computer coding program that we offer to not only our Purple Heart recipients, but veterans and their family members. It's a 1 year free course on how to code and learn how to get into the tech field. After the year, they have a job fair where people can get picked up by people like Google, IBM, Bing, or if you have something aligned for you, you already have the tools and the know-how how to get into that field and have a good career. So that's one of our ways of giving back. But if the people can go to mophfund.org and give us a look at our program, see what we offer, how we help people, and possibly donate to ensure that veterans are taken care of, that would be appreciated. We'll keep fighting the good fight and making sure that we help curb the suicide rate for veterans and ensure that not only Purple Heart recipients, but all veterans are out there or that will be taken care of and continue working alongside the other veteran service organizations so that nobody's left behind.
That's awesome. Brett?
Uh, I guess just to wrap up, I would say that if somebody is interested in getting some copies of The Way to Happiness, they're welcome to write to the Freedom Corps at info@freedomcorps.org. And we'll be happy to help them answer their questions, connect them with the Way to Happiness Foundation, get them started on this path. Nobody makes any money on these books, quite frankly. They're just printed at cost. The idea is that we use them as a tool. I didn't mention this earlier, but 3 of the top 7 reasons for suicide are hopelessness, impulsivity, and lack of connectedness. And this book directly addresses all 3 of those things. One way to think about these precepts is it gives you a tool to combat the impulsivity of a moment where you might act in a way that you would look back on and you go, "He probably shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
So this book directly addresses 3 of the top 7 reasons for suicide according to the VA in their 2024 suicide annual report. But we can help you get those books. info@freedomcorps.org, or you can contact Way to Happiness Foundation directly, and they can help you out. Minimum order is just 12 books. It's they print them on demand, and you can put your own logo on there. You can put your I have some folks that'll make up books personally. The dentist I used to go to had them distributed through her dental office. They're just a great little tool.
Yeah, and it
Thank
sounds like I know that people have bought some for their company, for all their employees, or, for a cause, maybe a team, a group of kids that they want to work with, or what have you. So that's really awesome. And, another thing that I really respect about the military, and I was listening to something the other day, and when you guys take a code of honor, or you take your code, it's for a lifetime, right? It's not just something that you serve and then when you're done, you take it home with you and you live that. And this also will help people honor that for them. So this is Dr. Duncan McCollum, McCollum Wellness Radio. I have um, Robert Olivares here. I always have trouble with names. From the Military Order of the Purple Heart, and Brett Miller, the National Chairman of the Veteran Freedom Corps. Thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day. Um, I really appreciate it. And we'll get this, hopefully, we're going to get some more support for you guys. And appreciate you all. We'll talk to you soon.